everybody, welcome back to Unparalleled Universe for another action figure review, and today we're taking a look at the brand new Transformers R.E.D. Beast Wars Cheetor. And for those of you who don't know, R.E.D. stands for Robot Enhanced Design. These are Hasbro's non-transforming, fully articulated Transformers figures. Cheetor is a part of the second wave of these figures. The first wave consisted of Optimus Prime, Soundwave, and Megatron. And I would say that when the first wave came out, not a lot of people liked them. I feel like a lot of people were disappointed. Personally, I like those figures a lot, but I can admit that they were missing some key articulation points, and if they had those points, those figures would have been a lot better. But as they are, I do like them, but I'm still excited to see how the line progresses, and I'm curious to know whether Hasbro learned from some of the mistakes they made with the first wave. That's why I'm really excited to check out this figure. I'm not like a big Beast Wars fan or anything. Obviously, I recognize Cheetor as a legendary character in the Transformers world. So, as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get him. And from what I'm hearing, he's the best R.E.D. figure that they put out so far. So I'm excited to take a look. But anyways, enough about all that. Let's go ahead and get into it. Starting off with the packaging. The packaging is very small, just like the rest of the Transformers R.E.D. figures. You can see Cheetor in there, and he does look pretty badass. And then right here, we have some nice looking artwork. On the side it says Transformers, and I really like how they display the accessories on the side of the box. That is really awesome. And then on the back we get a look at the figure, and then here we have him in a couple of different poses, and then you can see him using some of his accessories that he comes with, so that is nice. And over here we have that artwork that just kind of wraps around to the front, so that does look pretty good. I'm probably gonna throw this box away, even though it is collector friendly. My box is a little smashed up, but you know, who cares? Boxes are garbage anyways. So let's go ahead and rip this figure out and take a look. And to be honest with you guys, I'm a little conflicted on this figure. I like him, but when I first took him out of the packaging, I was a little disappointed, and I'm not 100% sure why. I'm not really sure what I was expecting from this figure. It just wasn't quite as cool as I thought he would be. But then once I spent a little bit more time with it and got his accessories out and posed them up a little bit, I started to appreciate it, and now at this point, I think it's a pretty cool figure, even though I do feel like there are a couple of things they could have done better. But one thing that really threw me off when I took it out of the packaging is how loose some of the joints are. Like, he has some trouble standing up because the leg joints are kind of loose, and I can fix that with some super glue or whatever. It's really not that big of a deal, but it's just kind of a unpleasant way to be introduced to the figure. And then he does have some looseness in the torso as well. So those kind of things just kind of turn me off right away, you know. But I could definitely fix that stuff, and I plan on fixing it, so I'm sure it'll be okay. But yeah, once I got his accessories out, that's really what kind of swayed my opinion a little bit, because then he started to look way cooler. And also, once I saw like what he's able to do as far as posability, it was pretty impressive. I do like the way he looks. He's got some good sculpting work going on. I think the cheetah head is nice, but I wish that they made it so that it was functional, because as it is right now, it just plugs into the torso, and that makes it so you can't really crunch his torso forward when you have it plugged in. And look at this, he's got a really nice ab crunch, but it's kind of useless because of the cheetah head. I wish they kind of had it like on hinges or something, so it just hinged up when you wanted to crunch them forward. This ab crunch is awesome. I just wish I could use it without having to worry about this cheetah head. But anyways, I think the sculpting on it is pretty good. He looks nice, but yeah, look at the... Oh man, I don't like the looseness. I won't try to dwell on that too much because, like I said, it's something I could fix, but yeah, you know. Anyways, let's go ahead and get in close and take a look at the details on this guy. And starting off at the head as usual, I do think this is a nice looking head sculpt. We have some detail work in there. I really like the colors as well. The blue face, the orange eyes, and the gold headpiece with the red in the center. I think all of that looks really good. I have heard complaints about this head sculpt. I've heard people say that it looks a little bit too much like a Predacon, and I'm not an expert on the show or anything, so I can't call it. I don't know whether or not this is an accurate head sculpt to the character. To me, I mean, it looks like Cheetor, but for somebody that's like a hardcore fan, there might be something in here that they don't necessarily like. But let me know in the comments, is this a good looking head sculpt for the character? I think it looks good. I just can't say definitively whether it's a good sculpt for this specific character. But I like the design, I like the colors, and I think it looks great. So, I mean, they did a good job with it. And then, oh, let me show you this here. So, looking at the back, we do have the cheetah legs, and these look good too. You've got the spots on there, and some nice sculpting work for the paws. And this comes off, and what's kind of cool about this, when it comes off, there's like more sculpted details on the inside here. It would have been nice if they painted those, but I mean, they didn't even really have to sculpt it, so that's kind of interesting that they did that, because that's hidden pretty much all the time. And moving up here, we have these little gold gears, I guess they would be, and those look good. And then this plugs right into the back of the figure itself. And then moving back around to the front here, I do think the cheetah head looks good. Got the red eyes, the cheetah spots. There's some nice like paintwork on here too. I like the differences in the yellow, how it goes from light to like a darker yellow, I guess you could say. The red eyes look really cool. And then when you remove this, this has some detail in here too. Well, some sculpted detail. You can't, it's kind of hard to make out, but we've got some things going on in there. No paint work, but it's pretty impressive that they put some sculpted detail into there. And then we have some sculpting work here too. But again, that's all covered most of the time, so that's kind of interesting that they did that. We've got some more sculpting work in here. So look at the arms. I feel like the gold on the arms doesn't really match the gold on the head. I think the gold on the head is a bit shinier. Interesting. I just noticed that. I think this figure would have been a lot better if the gold on the arms looked the way it does on the head. That's kind of weak. The sculpting work is really nice on here. You can see all these little lines and panels and stuff like that. Damn, I wish this matched the head. Because the head looks nice. I love the gold. And the gold on the head actually matches the gun pretty well. But it doesn't match the arms. Weak. And moving down in here, we have some more sculpting work. The legs look pretty good. I like the gold on the legs. It's better than it is on the arms. Same thing right over here. Got some more cheetah spots on the legs. Oh, and I like how it goes from that darker yellow to the lighter yellow on the inside. That's very cool. And moving down here, oh, look at this, man. This is kind of weak too. We have this really nice looking metallic color on the lower legs here. But then if you look at the kneecap, it just has that plastic color. Oh, man. That's disappointing. And you know what? I'm just noticing that as I'm taking a close look at the figure. Feels like it might be appropriate to repaint this whole thing just to kind of match the metallic look of the face. But the head sculpt to me is definitely the best part of this figure. It's just a matter of whether it's accurate to the character. So let me know in the comments. But yeah, the rest of this figure does have some nice sculpting work, but there are some disappointments as far as the paint is concerned. And Cheetor does come with some pretty nice accessories, including multiple sets of hands. So first off, we have a pair of fists, and then we have a set of open hands. Lastly, we have a set of gun gripping hands that could be used to hold on to his gun. And then he does have a couple of blast effects that could fit onto his gun. The first one here is a little bit bigger, and then he has a smaller version of it. And then last but not least, he does have some energon crystals. And the energon crystals do look really nice as well. I like the shape of them, I like the color, and I like how they're coming out of this different color type of rock here at the bottom. Like they were kind of buried or embedded into that, so that's kind of cool. And then the blast effects do look nice too. I like the purple color. And they stick right into the barrel with no problem at all. And once they're in there, they're not going anywhere. They stay in there very securely. And that is the case for both versions, so that's nice. And the gun looks okay too. I'm not like 100% familiar with how the gun looks. I know that Cheetor has a gun, but I'm not an expert on all the details. But as far as I could tell, I think this looks pretty cool. And right here, like looking at it through the camera, it does have a pretty nice gold color that I didn't really notice before. But yeah, now that I'm looking at it, it looks awesome. That gold color looks really good. And then we have the cheetah spots down here that match Cheetor himself. But yeah, I think this gun is really nice. So now for some quick size comparisons, we have Cheetor alongside the Transformers R.E.D Megatron and Transformers R.E.D Soundwave. And as you can see, I don't think scale is going to matter at all in this line. I know there's not going to be a lot of cases where you have Cheetor alongside these characters, but if we're just talking about scale, then this is completely off. And that's one thing that kind of is killing my excitement about this line, especially with Bumblebee coming out, because it looks like Bumblebee is going to be the same size as Optimus Prime. So damn, I don't know what the hell they're doing. But yeah, here's another example that, you know, scale seems to not really be a priority when it comes to this line. Next up, we have Cheetor alongside the Revoltech Optimus Prime and then the Transformers R.E.D Optimus Prime. And again, this scale doesn't work at all. And then next up, we have Cheetor alongside the War for Cybertron Kingdom Optimus Primal. And that's kind of funny because the scale works pretty good here, I would say. I mean, maybe Primal could have been a little bit bigger, but I think for the most part, that kind of works. So I'm probably going to display these two together because I really don't like the Kingdom Cheetor figure that just came out. out, especially like in his bot mode. It doesn't look very good. So I'm happy to at least have this that I could put with this Optimus Primal, which I'm a big fan of. So that's kind of cool. And then on the opposite side of that, we have the Earthrise Optimus Prime. And man, I forget how much I like that figure. That thing is awesome. And now here we have Cheetor alongside a couple of my favorite Transformers figures. On the left, we have the Earthrise Wheeljack, and on the right, we have the War for Cybertron Siege Impactor. And then next up, we have Cheetor alongside the Netflix War for Cybertron Bumblebee, and on the opposite side of that, we have one of my new favorites, and that would be the Studio Series Transformers the Movie Hot Rod, and that thing is awesome. I really hope to put together a review of him because I'm really enjoying that figure way more than I thought I would, so that thing is great. So we have him alongside the Marvel Legends Pizza Spider-Man and Marvel Legends Bucky Cap. And just because he has a friend that looks like a gorilla, here we have Cheetor alongside the NECA King Kong and the Mezco King Kong. And as far as articulation goes, Cheetor does have a pretty good amount, but there are a couple of things that I wish were a little bit different. But I will say, he is probably the most articulated figure that we've seen in the Transformers Red line so far. So that's definitely a good thing. But let's go ahead and get into it. Starting off with the head. So first off, the head can move side to side. It does have a little bit of tilt to it, but not a whole lot. Can only tilt to about right there. And he can't really look up too much either. He only looks up to right there. And then he looks down to right there. So there's not a whole lot of movement at the head because of the design of the character. And that's really what hinders most of the articulation on this guy, is the design. You know, there's just a lot of stuff going on, and it just seems like it was very hard to figure out how to make this guy super articulated. But yeah, the head kind of suffers because of that. So you're not going to get a whole bunch of movement. And then for the torso, we've got this really nice ab crunch that I mentioned earlier. So check this out. Crunches forward to right there, which is crazy. That's a really nice amount. And then it moves back to about right there, which is pretty good too. And then he does have a waist swivel. But the problem with the torso is that when he has the cheetah head on, it's pretty much useless. You can't use the ab crunch at all. I mean, it crunches forward a little bit, but not a whole lot. But again, that's an effect of the design. I mean, it is what it is. This character has a big old cheetah head on his torso, so like it was never really going to move all that much. But I do think that they could have engineered it in a way to make it a little bit more functional. Like if they would have just connected it there with the hinge to make it like hinge up or something when you crunch them forward, that would have been really cool, but they decided not to do that. So what I've been doing is kind of crunching them forward in a position that I want, and then I stick the cheetah head onto there. But if you go too deep with it, then you're not going to be able to stick the head back on there. So like what I've been doing is something like that. So it gets a little bit of crunch, and then you still have the cheetah head on there. So I think that's okay. But they really could have made something like this work if they would have just put like a hinge in there to have it hinge forward and go over the waist piece. But you know, it is what it is. I could sympathize a little bit because this does seem like a complicated design to stuff a bunch of articulation into. And then for the arms, we do have ball jointed shoulders. I do wish that he had butterfly joints, especially because of the way the shoulders design. Look at the way they stick out. It would have been nice if this was like a butterfly joint, but that's not what they did. But the shoulder can shift up a little bit, which is interesting. It's like one long peg that goes in there, so it can go up a little bit, it could come down a little bit. It doesn't really, it doesn't really do like the butterfly joint thing. It does go all the way around. His arms could come out to the side a really good amount. He does have upper bicep swivel. He's got single jointed elbows, which, you know, it's like, oh man, why not double jointed elbows? I feel like I'm complaining a lot with this figure. My bad, but there's just things I wish that they did a little bit different. But yeah, he's got single jointed elbows that do have a swivel. At the wrist, we have a swivel and a hinge. For the legs, they could come out to the side to about right there. They could kick forward a really good amount, so the legs are pretty awesome. Damn, so that's pretty good. They could come back a really good amount. He does have upper thigh swivel, double jointed knee, which is really nice. At the lower leg, there's no swivel. Nope, no swivel at the ankle or anything, but he does have rocking ankles, and then his foot could come forward to about right there. And then it could come up to right there. So the legs are actually really nice. And the rest of the figure's okay. There's just a couple of things that I feel like he's missing, you know. Like double jointed elbows would have been nice, but maybe they just didn't want to break up the design too much. And butterfly jointed shoulders would have been cool. I could be kind of forgiving on the torso because of the complicated design of the character, but You know, even with the restrictions, I think that he is pretty posable, and he is fun to mess around with. It just takes a little bit of work, but yeah, you could get some good things going with them. Let's go ahead and just pose him up a little bit. Kind of have him jumping around. I wish that I could do something a little bit more with the torso. I don't know. I want to try to figure out a way to modify it or something, but I just haven't really been able to figure something out quite yet. It would have been nice if he had a diaphragm cut instead of a ab crunch, and then that way at least he could like tilt side to side and maybe just move forward a little bit. I think that would have been dope. But as it is right now, it's a little limited. But still, he's got decent articulation.
Alright guys, so like I said at the beginning, I'm a little conflicted on this figure because I do like it, I'm happy I have it, and I'm still pretty much all in when it comes to the Transformers R.E.D line, but I'd be lying if I didn't say that I was slightly disappointed in this figure, and the main reason why is because the way he felt when I first took him out of the box. A lot of his joints were very loose, he was kind of flopping around, and it felt very cheap. And I understand that this is a $20 retail figure, it's not a Mafex, it's not a Mezco, it's not a masterpiece, and I don't have those expectations of this line, but at the same time, I don't want to pull a figure out of the box and it feel as cheap as this one did. And it wasn't only just the loose joints. At one point, his waist actually came apart like OG Toy Biz Iceman style. Like, it just fell apart, and it was like, man, what is this? It all felt very cheap, and I've never felt that way with any of the other Transformers R.E.D figures, so there's really no excuse here, you know? But once I glued it together and tightened up the joints a little bit, then I started to enjoy the figure. The other thing I'm kind of disappointed in is the paintwork. It drives me crazy that the gold on the arms doesn't match the beautiful looking gold that we get on the head. It just doesn't make any sense. This figure would have looked so much nicer if the paints all matched each other. And same thing goes for the blues. Imagine if the rest of this figure had the same nice blue paintwork that we get on the face and on the lower legs. What we have now is some nice blue paint and then some molded plastic that just looks bad, especially when they put them so close together like on the lower legs. The knees are molded in blue plastic and the lower legs have a nice metallic paint job. Why put them so close? It makes it stand out even more. Oh man. That was a poor decision in my opinion. Honestly, I think this figure would have looked amazing if they put some love into the paint because the sculpt is there. The sculpting work is nice on this guy. I think they did a great job there, but they really half-assed the paint in my opinion. And man, I really hate to sound so negative because I like this figure. Once I put some work into it, I enjoy messing around with it. I think the articulation is good. There are some limitations, but I think that's mostly due to the character design. I'd imagine that it was very hard to stuff articulation into such a complicated design, especially with that cheetah on the chest, and I feel like they did the best they could. Maybe they could have put a hinge on the cheetah head. Maybe that would have done something for them. Maybe not. As it is, you know, I get it. It's a complicated design, but I think they put a good amount of articulation in there, and I'm having fun posing it around. I like the accessories, the extra hands, the blast effects, the energon crystals. All that stuff is really cool, and I like the way he looks next to Optimus Primal from the Kingdom line. And I would like to see an Optimus Primal in the red line. I think that would be dope. But who knows how it would scale because it seems like they're not taking scale very serious when it comes to this line. They're kind of all over the place. So, you know, like I said, I still have high hopes for this line. And I really hope to one day get a Springer figure. But man, if they're doing stuff like, you know, sending out like figures that are that have exploding crotches and then just kind of disregarding scale, I feel like this line doesn't really have legs, but we'll see. I really hope that I'm wrong because I love the idea of a non-transforming articulated Transformers line, but I feel like the R.E.D stuff is just coming up short, and that's coming from someone that really liked the first wave. A lot of people were saying that this was going to be the best figure in the line. I disagree. Right now, I think Soundwave is the best figure. A lot of that has to do with, you know, my affinity for the character, but I think the figure is awesome. But honestly, when it's all said and done, I do like this figure. There are some good things going for it, but I really think that Hasbro could have done a better job with it. But, you know, what do I know? Anyways, I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And thank you very much. Peace.